So, did a single controversial gesture at a rally actually manage to shake a global business empire? We're diving into the ripples caused by Elon Musk's salute back in January 2025.
Yeah, it's a fascinating case study. We've looked at Wikipedia pages covering the salute controversy itself and Musk's public image generally.
Right. And we've also pulled in analysis from places like Buying Crypto, looking at the Dogecoin angle, and the Driven for Insights on Tesla's sales figures.
Our goal here is really to unpack that chain reaction. You know, how one moment potentially connects to everything from public opinion to actual market performance, especially looking at Tesla sales up to the end of April 2025.
It really touches on that intersection of celebrity, politics, and big business, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It shows the kind of spotlight these figures are under and how one action can spark so much debate and have tangible consequences.
Okay, so let's set the scene. January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump's second inauguration rally in D.C.
And Elon Musk is there. He's not just an attendee. He'd actually been named co-head of this new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, which we'll get back to.
Right. So during the rally, Musk is on stage, does a bit of dancing, and then says, my heart goes out to you. It is thanks to you that the future of civilization is assured.
And then comes the gesture. A straight arm movement, palm down. He does it twice.
And the interpretation started almost instantly, right?
Immediately. That specific gesture, the straight arm, palm down. It has unavoidable historical echoes. The Nazi salute, the Roman salute, used by fascists.
So many people online, news outlets like CNN, they made that connection straight away.
They did, though other interpretations popped up too. Some suggested maybe it was just, an awkward moment, maybe linked to his comments about having Asperger's traits, though. Yeah. Important note, that's not a formal medical diagnosis he's received.
And there were even some perhaps more obscure theories.
Yeah, linking it to certain sort of Slavic neo-Nazi groups and gestures, mentioning phrases like from the heart to the sun. But the dominant interpretation, certainly the one that caused the most controversy, was the Nazi or fascist salute comparison.
Okay, so how did this play out within the United States? The reactions were pretty intense, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. Very divided. You had the Anti-Defamation League, the ADL, initially put out a statement.
What did they say?
They called it an awkward gesture, basically defended Musk, and urged people to give him the benefit of the doubt, essentially.
But that itself caused problems.
It did. Outlets like Jewish News quickly pointed out that the ADL's own definition of a Nazi salute seemed to match the gesture Musk made. So, bit of a contradiction there.
And figures associated with the ADL weighed in.
Right. Abraham Foxman, who used to be the national director, was very blunt. He called it a Heil Hitler Nazi salute. No ambiguity there.
And other groups?
Progressive Jewish groups, like If Not Now, were critical of the ADL's initial softer stance. Academics were split, too. One history professor, Aaron Astor, argued it wasn't a Nazi salute.
But others disagreed strongly.
Yes, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, who studies fascism, called it a Nazi salute and a very belligerent one, too. Even the current ADL CEO, Jonathan Greenblatt, later walked back the framing of their first tweet, expressing some regret.
So a lot of debate, even among experts and advocacy groups.
Definitely. The Southern Poverty Law Center landed on apparent Nazi salute, and the Limken Institute for Genocide Prevention actually issued a red flag alert for genocide in the U.S. after the incident. Quite a strong reaction.
Wow. And what about political figures?
Condemnation came from Democrats like Jerry Nadler and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, with AOC suggesting possible Nazi sympathies. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz also called it a Nazi salute.
Didn't Musk react to that specifically?
Yeah, reports said Musk was considering suing Walz over that comment.
And on the Republican side?
You had figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Elise Stefanik defending Musk. So very partisan reactions.
It even made it onto Saturday Night Live.
It did. They lampooned the whole thing.
Was there any polling on how the public saw it?
Yes. A YouGov survey was quite revealing. It found about 42% saw it as a Nazi or Roman salute, but another 42% saw it as a gesture from the heart.
So almost evenly split.
Overall, yes, but the split was starkly along political lines. Most Harris voters saw the salute interpretation, while most Trump voters saw the gesture from the heart.
That really shows how political identity shapes perception, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The same visual information interpreted completely differently depending on, pre-existing beliefs and affiliations.
Okay, let's broaden the scope. What was the reaction like internationally?
It really kicked off globally. You had political parties in Europe, the left in Germany, the Greens in Austria, calling for Musk to actually be banned from entering their countries.
Wow. Strong stuff.
And disturbingly, you also saw neo-Nazi and white supremacist groups celebrating the gesture. Figures like Thomas Sowell, Nick Fuentes, groups like Active Club Network, Patriotic Alternative, Blood Tribe.
So the far right saw it positively.
They seem to embrace it. Andrew Torba from Gab, the Proud Boys, White Lives Matter groups, they were praising it.
But not universal condemnation or praise?
No, it was mixed. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu defended Musk, called him a great friend of Israel being falsely smeared.
Yeah, Israeli media.
Haaretz, a major newspaper there, ran the headline, "Elon Musk appears to make fascist salute." So, different views even within Israel.
And elsewhere. Italy had a strange twist, right?
Yeah, Musk's representative in Italy, Andrea Strappa, initially posted a picture of the salute saying, "Roman Empire is back."
Seriously?
Yes, but then he apparently backtracked, claiming Musk was just expressing feelings related to autism. It was confusing.
And reactions continued.
Oh, yes. An Italian communist youth group hung an effigy of Musk upside down, a very loaded historical image in Italy. An Italian journalist, Roberto Saviano, strongly attacked Musk.
Germany's chancellor.
Olaf Scholz made a statement generally condemning extreme right views, which Musk then mocked on X.
And that projection onto the Gigafactory?
Right. The British group led by donkeys projected Heil Tesla onto the Berlin Gigafactory. That led to a German police investigation.
Any other notable reactions?
Spain's labor minister, Yolanda Diaz, publicly quit X over it. Belarus's President Lukashenko called it an open Nazi salute.
But some defended him internationally, too.
Yes. Argentina's President Javier Milei said Musk was being unfairly vilified, extremely sensitive. The Simon Wiesenthal Center expressed serious concerns, calling for Musk to clarify or apologize. Did he? Not in the way they hoped, as we'll see. The Jewish Council for Public Affairs, the JCPA, stated pretty clearly they believed Musk knew what he was doing, calling it a fascist Roman salute.
So less ambiguity from them.
Yes. And the Jerusalem Post reported many Jewish organizations saw it as an unambiguous Nazi salute. Amy Spitalnik, the JCPA CEO, linked it to a pattern, mentioning Musk's previous amplification of an anti-Semitic post on X.
Right. That context was important for them.
Absolutely. Michelle Friedman, a prominent figure in Germany's Jewish community, called the salute simply a disgrace. A Canadian Holocaust survivor, David Moskovich, spoke out about his alarm.
Were there more concrete actions taken?
Yes. A coalition of Jewish organizations announced they were leaving X, his platform, and there were reports of Jewish investors putting pressure on asset managers to sell off Tesla stock.
And there was that connection to the AfD rally on the same day.
Yes. That's a really troubling piece of this. On the very same day he made the salute, Musk addressed a rally for Germany's far-right AfD party via video link.
What did he say?
He reportedly suggested Germany focus too much on past guilt and warned against the dilution of the German people. Coming on the same day as the salute, it raised profound concerns.
Understandably. So, faced with all this criticism, how did Musk himself react?
Mostly dismissively on X, his own platform. He called the critical media biased, pure propaganda. He said the "everyone is Hitler" attack, "so tired."
He even went after Wikipedia.
He did. After his Wikipedia page described the gesture as a Nazi salute, he called for the site to be defunded.
Did he engage with the substance of the criticism?
Not really. He posted some Nazi-themed puns, believe it or not.
Puns.
Yeah, which even the ADL, after their initial defense, then called offensive and inappropriate.
Did he ever just say, "I'm not a Nazi"?
He did, later, on Joe Rogan's podcast. He said, "I'm not a Nazi," and then added that the problem with Nazis was war and genocide, not their fashion or their mannerisms.
Which some might find minimizes the issue of the symbolism itself.
Precisely. His overall reaction seemed to inflame things rather than calm them down for many critics.
And then you mentioned these copycat incidents. That's quite alarming.
It is. It shows how actions by such visible figures can ripple outwards. A British political commentator, Calvin Robinson, did a similar gesture, said, "My heart goes out to you."
What happened to him?
His church revoked his license. His editorial team resigned. Significant fallout.
Others, too.
Yes, a township supervisor in Pennsylvania, Laura Smith, resigned after a TikTok video surfaced of her doing it. A real estate agent in San Antonio got fired for imitating it on social media.
Even in a corporate setting.
An Idaho construction CEO performed the salute at a company event. She later apologized, called it humor and parody, and resigned. And Steve Bannon was reportedly seen appearing to do a similar salute at CPAC.
So, regardless of Musk's intent, the gesture itself took on a life of its own and was replicated.
Exactly. It highlights the responsibility that comes with that level of visibility.
Okay, let's pivot to the business impact, specifically Tesla. What happened to sales, say, by the end of April 2025, following all this in January?
Well, the data showed a pretty significant sales drop in some key markets. Australia was a notable example, down 33% in January 2025 compared to the year before.
Was that just Australia or part of a wider trend?
Australian EV sales overall were weak, apparently, but Tesla's drop was reported as particularly sharp, only about a quarter of their sales from January 2023. And this seemed to contrast with trends in some other international markets.
What were the suggested reasons? Was it just the salute controversy?
Sources pointed towards brand deterioration. And yes, they linked that partly to Musk's controversies, including his political statements and presumably the salute fallout.
But were there other factors at play?
Definitely. Analysts also stressed that Tesla's product line was getting older. The Model S and X designs are over 10 years old now. The Model Y is 5. That's a long time in the auto world, especially EVs.
Aging products could definitely impact sales, regardless of PR issues.
For sure. And Cybertruck apparently had a very low conversion rate from reservations to actual sales, only about 5%.
Was there any positive news on the horizon for Tesla sales then?
There was hope pinned on the updated Model Y, codenamed Juniper, which was expected around May, so potentially a boost coming.
Were there other external pressures on Tesla around that time?
Yes, there was this escalating trade dispute between the U.S. and Canada that seemed to impact Musk's interests. Ontario reportedly canceled the Starlink contract, and there was talk of a massive 100% tariff on Tesla vehicles entering Canada.
And internally within Tesla.
Reports suggested shareholders were getting restless, maybe even pushing for Musk's removal from the board. So it's a complicated picture. The salute controversy likely hurt the brand, but it coincided with product cycle issues and geopolitical tensions.
Hard to isolate one cause, but the timing is certainly suggestive.
Very suggestive. It seems likely the controversy compounded existing challenges for Tesla.
Okay, let's touch on Dogecoin. Musk has had a long and influential relationship with it.
He really has. It started as a joke, a parody of crypto hype, right?
Yeah, based on the Shiba Inu dog meme.
But Musk's tweets, his promotion of it, turned it into this huge speculative asset. His comments like, Dogecoin is the people's crypto, sent the price soaring.
But he also called it a hustle on SNL, which caused a crash, didn't he?
Exactly. Huge volatility tied directly to his words. And then came the DOGE appointment.
Right, the Department of Government Efficiency. Trump appointing him at head, that naming was intentional.
Seemed very intentional. And it caused another spike in Dogecoin's price initially.
But what happened after that initial buzz?
It didn't last. The price fell sharply again. And data showed that between late January and the end of March 2025, the number of Dogecoin millionaire addresses wallets holding over $1 million worth dropped by over 40%.
Wow, a big drop in perceived wealth there.
Huge, both for the $1 million holders and the 10 million plus holders. While you can't pin it all on the DOGE announcement and Musk's subsequent controversies, broader crypto market factors were also involved. The timing suggests a strong correlation.
It raises ethical questions, doesn't it? One person having that much sway.
Absolutely. This idea of parasocial investing, where people invest based on an emotional tie to a figure like Musk, is risky. And the whole thing dances around legal questions of market manipulation.
Isn't there a lawsuit related to this?
Yes, a massive $258 billion class action lawsuit accusing Musk of running a Dogecoin pyramid scheme. It's still ongoing, I believe.
Yet the Dogecoin community itself seems quite resilient.
It does. Despite the price swings, the whale dumping, there's still a very active, meme-driven community around it. It's quite a phenomenon.
So wrapping up the broader picture of Musk's public image, it's always been quite polarized, hasn't it?
Extremely. Described as everything from a visionary to, well, part philosopher, part troll. Some commentators have called him effectively an American oligarch due to his influence.
And there were actual protests targeting him and Tesla.
Yes, this Tesla takedown movement emerged. Grassroots protests at Tesla stores globally calls for divestment, explicitly linking their actions to Musk's political involvement, including the DOGE role.
Were these protests peaceful?
Mostly, but there were reports of vandalism and even incendiary devices found at some locations, which is obviously very serious.
And he had run-ins with other public figures, too.
Yeah, there was that spat with Vincenzo De Luca, an Italian regional president, who called Musk some pretty harsh names in April 2025, like crazy drug addict.
Yeah.
Musk, of course, responded on X.
It seems controversy follows him, even into gaming.
Apparently so. Criticisms about alleged cheating in games like Path of Exile 2 and Diablo 4, and him criticizing what he called woke content in Assassin's Creed Shadows. It seems his public persona touches almost everything he engages with.
Okay, so bringing this all together, the salute in January 2025 clearly set off a global reaction. Condemnation from many, praise from the far right.
And it coincided with, or perhaps contributed to, a noticeable dip in Tesla's sales in early 2025, although as we discussed, the aging product line is a major factor too.
His Dogecoin involvement remains chaotic, bringing price swings and legal troubles. And his overall public image is, well, as divisive as ever, sparking protests and impacting his businesses.
It really makes you think. Considering how intertwined Musk's personal actions, his political statements, and the fortunes of his company seem to be, it raises a big question for you, the listener.
What's that?
Does this whole episode signal a kind of turning point, a shift in how these incredibly influential figures have to navigate public life, politics, and their business empires in this day and age? Something to ponder.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Le podcast Philippe.